Joining the show now, Y Factor and bold prediction winner from Saturday, David Nixon. David, you were 2 for 2, man. What the heck? What happened?
Hey, you know what? I decided to stop toying around with the rest of the crew and decided to finally just get my A game, and that's what happens when I put my mind to it, you know? I mean, it's just no-brainer. No, it was fun. Although I'm starting to see a trend. These offensive guys are winning the Y Factor. I don't like it. Every time, besides the first game of the year with Craig Bills, it's been correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been an offensive guy every time. So, you know, I don't want to have to pick an offensive guy each week, but that's what it's looking like I have to do in order to win this Y Factor.
Business decisions.
If Scott Arellano was available, he would have won.
Yeah, it's true. He was available, but nobody just picked him. That was the thing.
That's what there are people that are like, why isn't he? We used to do that. It doesn't work. Someone's got to win among you guys.
Yeah, and as much as I love to give props to Scott Arellano, it's just tough to pick a kicker. I mean, that's Dave McCann's job. Yeah, that's Dave McCann's job.
David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. Your bold prediction on Saturday was that BYU would not turn the ball over. That was a huge part of BYU beating Virginia. Having had the ball for only 19 minutes, they put up 41 points. What was the most impressive part of Saturday's game that you saw from BYU?
Yeah, I think they were just very effective and efficient. When they did have the ball, which, well, like you just mentioned, was not for a long period of time, they were obviously efficient in what they did. And so I think this offense continues to get more and more efficient as the year goes on. Taysom's becoming more and more comfortable. He mentioned that, you know, on the Dan Patrick show today on their radio show, that he just feels more comfortable, more confident, especially with the guys around him making plays. So the time disparity is exactly what I think Virginia came into the game saying, look, we've got to do everything we can to keep the ball in our offensive hand, keep Taysom, Hill off the field. And so what they do, they had long, sustained drives. And granted, BYU's defense couldn't get off the field. They gave up some penalties on third downs, gave up some long bombs on third downs. But you have to give credit to Virginia for their game plan coming in and what they were able to accomplish. But all in all, like you said, when BYU did get the ball, they were able to make it productive and get some points on the board.
You mentioned the Dan Patrick Show appearance by Taysom Hill earlier this morning. Taysom was asked about how he got engaged to your sister Emily, and he mentioned that the ring was with a brother-in-law. Was that you? And if so, why didn't Taysom mention your name?
Indeed, it was me, and Taysom and I will have that conversation later on today. This is something that will not go without being spoken about. I am deeply offended. I carried this ring. Here's the story. He gave us the ring, and he gave it to my wife. He didn't trust me, so he gave it to my wife. And my wife, on the flight to Texas, would get up out of her seat because she brought it on with her carry-on, and she get up and check the ring like every hour to make sure it was still in her purse above her head. Because she was that worried about it. And then I can't even get it mentioned. I mean, the care that we took with that ring, I can't even get my name mentioned. Yeah, this is definitely something I'll take up with the brother-in-law.
You are the Frodo to Taysom Hill.
Don't ever mention that again.
David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. We spent some time talking about the BYU pass rush. It was addressed by Bronco Mendenhall and Nick Howell. Bronco said, we need to get to the quarterback more. We need to make plays downfield. Nick Howell said, look, it's been good enough. We're 4-0. We've knocked a couple of quarterbacks out. Where do you see the BYU pass rush right now, and how does it get better?
Yeah, stats don't lie, right? And BYU currently ranks 78th in the country in sacks. So obviously it's not
tied
the par.
with Alabama.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. And it goes to show Utah's, I think, number 2, right? So it's still tough to say
Don't
early on
mention
in the
them
season.
here.
I know, but it's early on in the season to show that like, a lot of it comes down to who you're playing, right? BYU's played Texas. Which, obviously they were able to dismantle, but still had a decent offensive line, good athletes. Virginia, younger offensive line, but still good athletes. So, listen, I think a lot of it comes down. I mean, it's obvious to BYU fans, to coaches. They know that this is a concerning, an issue they've got to address, and I think they're doing it. But I think a lot of it comes down to, and people ask what's gone wrong. I think a lot of it, to be honest, is Bronson Kafusi, and you hate to just peg one thing, but Bronson demands a double team every time he's out there on the field. He's that big of a body. He's that athletic that when he's come off the edge, he demands that both the guard and tackle, or maybe the tackle and the running back come chip him. But he demands more than one blocker. And when you do that, it frees up the other guys. And without Bronson on the field, then the opposing team can kind of do whatever they want with the guys coming, right? And so I think that's why we've seen in the last few games not much of a pass rush. You look at the numbers, and Bronson through 2 games because of his injury has 2 sacks, and he ties for the lead on the team with Alani. So, I think once BYU gets him back, it will obviously be a huge addition. I think you'll see that the quarterback hurries and kind of pressure being put on the quarterbacks will be stepped up. But I will say that with a high ankle sprain, which Bronson has, I had one of those my senior years, and they are beasts. And you never really do fully recover, to be honest. You kind of have to manage it the rest of the season, and it's that part worries me. But knowing how tough he is and kind of his mindset mentality, I think he'll obviously be a great addition back on the field. But don't be fooled; those high ankle sprains are a big mess, and they hurt bad. And once again, it's tough to function with them. But at the same time, I see BYU that we've seen in the last game rotating some younger guys through. Troy Hines, Fred Warner got some great pressure, and so I think they're trying to toy with some of these younger guys and get them in and get them some action and just trying to rotate guys through and keep them fresh. I mean, especially against Virginia, right? I mean, BYU's defense was on the field for obviously the majority of the game, so guys were tired and the pass rush just wasn't quite there. So I think they're experimenting, and once again, we're through 4 games, and hopefully they hit their stride, maybe take this bye week and really evaluate exactly how they can attack the opposing offense to make sure you've got more pressure on them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think part of it is inexperience. You're sending in say Tautu, Teo Kautai, Jeremiah Leotaduyer, Zach Stout. These guys are inexperienced. They're bringing it, but this is kind of just the beginning for them. How do you stay aggressive yet minimize penalties and still be effective?
Well, let me touch back on that point you just mentioned, and I think this is something people overlook, and I was thinking about this earlier today. When you bring zone blitzes or man blitzes, there are so many specifics that have to occur in order to get the quarterback, right? I mean, if you're bringing a field blitz from the field, you've got the safety and the backer coming, the linebacker has to make sure he does his proper sign, which is he has to stay inside of any block, right? So the tackle flares or the running back comes at him, he has to make sure he stays inside that block to free up the safety or the corner coming outside of him. And when you've got these young guys, sometimes they get those big eyes, and they're coming at the quarterback and they realize, man, I'm about to have a free shot. Let me just make a move on this tackle. They may go outside, and I've seen a few of those busts so far this year where you have 2 guys in one gap blitzing outside, and it disrupts everything. And so you're right. A lot of these young guys are still learning the system, and especially it comes down to being, as Bronco will say, assignment sound on these blitzes, because if one guy does not go his exact gap, the whole blitz goes for nothing. I mean, it'll be picked up really easily, and the quarterback will have all day. And I've seen that happen quite a few times this year. And once again, I think that's young guys being coached up, and those veteran guys. I mean, it's just second nature to know, hey, I've got to go underneath this tackle, or I've got to go underneath this running back because I got a guy coming outside me blitzing. So that, and then to be honest, looking at the film, I went back and watched that Texas game. There are a lot of missed sacks. BYU, and we talked about this after further review on Tuesday nights of the type of technique you have to have when you're coming on a blitz and the type of shoulder of the quarterback you have to attack, et cetera. And there's been some sacks left out there on the field, and Lonnie Fu and Remington Peck, a few guys, just name a few that have missed out on some great opportunities. So the pressure's there, but they've just got to fall through and actually bring them down. And hopefully once they start doing that, then those sack numbers start rising.
Defensive coordinator Nick Howell did mention the 4-man pass rush specifically needs to be better, so that's something that they will work on during the bye week. We're talking to David Nixon, former NFL and BYU linebacker on BYU Sports Nation. Our Twitter question today, David, is who will lead BYU in sacks this year? The combination of Alani Fua and Bronson Kafusi, affectionately known as Calfua, or the rest of the team? What do you think?
Yeah, I have to go with Fua and Kafusi. I mean, once again, stats don't lie. Both of them tied with 2. But the field is intriguing. I mean, you've got guys, especially with the way Dallin Levitt's playing, from the safety position, I can see them bringing a lot of safety blitzes to get him involved in the way that he just kind of just throws his body around. And then, of course, the rest of the Zach Stout, those guys coming in on blitzes. He has a sack this year. So, I have to go with Alani Fu and Kafusi because I really do think, once again, in BYU's defensive scheme, it highlights and showcases those outside backers when it comes to blitzes and getting to the quarterback. And so naturally, the scheme's going to allow them to get more opportunities. But at the same time, when you take the field, you got 2 guys versus 9, 10, 11 others with subs, et cetera. I don't know. It's tough. But once again, the stats don't lie. Those two guys have 4 combined, and the field has 4. So I guess you're right there. But I'm going with Kafusi and Fua.
When you look at the pressure to win, you were on the 2008 team that had the quest for perfection and that whole deal. Did there come a point where the pressure was too much to win, to stay undefeated?
It's funny you asked. I was thinking that the other night as far as the pressure on Taysom and this team. It starts to mount quite a bit. And it's funny because I remember we went and played Utah State my senior year, and we were blowing them out by like 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And their fans started chanting to us, overrated.
I remember that because Utah State scored like 14 real quick.
Yeah, they scored 4. Yeah, exactly, on our backups. And so they started to chant overrated. I mean, I think we were 9th in the country at the time.
Classic Utah State move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, classic. Yeah, Ben Bagley. But no, listen. It starts to mount because, especially with BYU and kind of local media and everything, the players. That's all you hear about is every day. Oh, you guys, quest for perfection. You guys going to be able to do it. You're going to be able to run the table. And then with Taysom getting this Heisman talk. I mean, it starts to mount, but I'll tell you that this year's team, with the way they've approached each game, with the true mindset of just focus on this game. This game is our championship game. I have to give the coaches credit to that, to kind of keeping the guys focused, because it is so tough. I mean, everyone talks about going undefeated, and they'll run the table, but man, you got to realize that once you get ranked, every opponent you face from there on out, they are gunning for you. This is their Super Bowl, and that's what BYU has to face each week. They're facing teams that have prepared for them and are bringing out their A game for BYU.
It's so hard to go undefeated.
It's happened once in the history of BYU. Once.
Yeah, twice in the regular season, but they lost the bowl game in '79. Regardless, it's really difficult, and ESPN has given BYU the best chance percentage-wise of going undefeated. It's still
That's
only
changed
at 20.
to Marshall now.
Oh, has it changed to Marshall now?
Yeah, Marshall's number 1 by 1 percentage point more.
Okay, so BYU is right around 20%, and that's one of the better chances in the country.
Went up to 25. Marshall 26%.
How about that? Okay, David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. The quest for perfection. I feel like we should just ban that statement ever. Are you okay with knocking that statement out?
2.0? Come on, man.
I am. I am, especially because once again that was the motto for my senior year, and it was kind of a tough motto to live up to. Although Bronco to this day would say, look, it wasn't about quest for perfection on the field. It had
can't
more
put
to
it
do
on
with
a T-shirt.
Yeah, it had more to do with off the field things, but I mean, obviously everyone took it for what it was.
Right.
So I agree. Let's ban it. And I don't know. It's one of those things you just don't want to talk about. You don't want to jinx it, right? So you just kind of let it be and just kind of – we mentioned it, but I don't know if you put a slogan or a phrase to it. That just, once again, just adds more pressure to them.
Taysom Hill's brother-in-law, David Nixon, joining us on BYU Sports Nation. So we kid. Is Taysom mature enough to handle the increased exposure and the pressure of what he's dealing with right now?
Yeah, most definitely.
Would you tell us if he wasn't?
I honestly would.
Okay.
I honestly would. In having a relationship with Taysom that I have and spending a lot of time with him, the kid is very mature. The kid, he mentioned in the interview today, he's a confident kid. Not cocky. I wouldn't put it as cocky. He's a very confident kid with his abilities and with his teammates' abilities. And so with that being said, I think he is mature enough to handle what's going on. And it's funny because outside of football, we have family barbecues, things like that together. We don't talk football at all. It's pure, just whatever the topic is. And that's kind of have to be when you're in the talk like Taysom is. You kind of have to let football stay on the field, and then you need to release once you leave football. You need to just talk about other stuff, and so I think for him, it shows his maturity in the fact that he can leave it on the field, and then spend his life how it is. And once he comes back to the field and practices next day, he picks it back up and keeps grinding. But I think he is mature enough, and I think he's handled himself greatly so far, and will continue to do so.
So my wife keeps telling me when I come home, can you talk about something else?
Just leave it. Just leave it at work, Jerem.
You were there for like 18 hours. Come on.
David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. Great to talk to you. Next time I see Taysom, I will say, hey, you're the brother-in-law of David Nixon.
Yeah, you won't have to. I will have already addressed that.
Thanks, David.
Penalties, you'll address it.
Thanks, guys.